Hey, everybody. I'm not even looking, but hi. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Janelle.
We've been chatting for like an hour, so
Yeah.
we
So we're
won't
nice
sound
and
like we
warmed up
just
for
saw each other. Welcome to Hot Topics, where we talk about human design in a way that is different from other people and might make you feel like you can breathe in the space and there's not so many rules and regulations. And maybe there's something that you heard and you're like, all right, is this really what this means? Or is this really how this goes? And we're here to tell you not necessarily.
We're here to give a different take, or a more human take. I don't know. I like how you said a chance to breathe.
Well, yeah, because sometimes there's human design is a lot. There's a lot of information and it's a lot of different areas of your life where it feels like something's trying to tell you what to do. Like, this is how you do this. This is the right way for you to do this because of your authority and your type. This is that automatically puts in your brain, okay, well, then there's wrong ways. So these are all the wrong ways and I'm doing these things. And I feel like that's already kind of starting off in a limiting place because there's really no wrong way to do it. And when you have 2 third lines like myself and Rebecca saying this kind of stuff, it might sound like it's really easy for us to say it. It is really easy for me to say, like, just try stuff out. Like, it's easier for me to say it than it is to do it. But that's really what it is. And today we're going to talk about the amount of time it is said to fully decondition from your life pre-human design and become your most aligned, most human designy self. 7 years, people.
7 years.
That's a long time, especially when you're Rebecca and I's age. It's like 7 years. Like, no.
Feels like a lot.
It does feel like a lot. That's why when I first got to human design, I saw the 7-year thing. I'm like, why couldn't I have found this when I was like 20?
I know.
I can wait 7 years when I'm 20. God. But we did it. So that can feel like, first of all, it feels overwhelming. It's like, okay, so I have to go to school for 7 years in this human design thing before I graduate. Like, this is too much. This is too much time. How did you feel when you saw this?
I felt a little defeated because I was in this place where I'm like, I just want to be healed now. Like, I'm trying to figure out life. I was tired of being sad about my divorce and not understanding how to make money. And like, just come on.
Yeah, we're not getting any younger. We're like, hello, let's go.
Yeah.
And we're females. And because of societal conditioning, we don't necessarily get better as we get older. To the society says. I do not say this, but society says that in general, males age better than females in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
And I'm 41 now, so I've crossed the barrier.
This year, I will be 40 this goddamn year. I am not looking forward to it. But obviously we don't believe that. And fortunately in 2023, there's a lot more rhetoric of you can do whatever you want at whatever age you want. Like, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of more opportunities. Yes. Even in areas like acting and stuff where your looks are the ticket, we've been seeing a lot more older actresses get like high acclaim and recognition.
Oh yeah.
For their abilities, stuff that they weren't getting when they were younger, which is interesting. But we still feel the conditioning of we're women and we're getting older. Like that's just a thing. And I know everybody feels crappy when they get older, but I feel like if you are female genetically, societally, you feel like, can we slow this down a little bit, please? Come on.
Yeah. It's weird though. I've kind of embraced it. Like, my grays are coming in and I'm like, oh, hey there. And I'm not ashamed to say I'm 41 years old. Like, I'm like, bring it on, because the 20s were exhausting. The 30s were spent healing. Like, can I finally live now? That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. I'm totally with you. Sean turns 41 in March.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So 7 whole goddamn years. What does that mean?
So let me say, like, kind of the biological reason they talk about this is
Mhm.
because they say that our cells are always rejuvenating in different ways. Like our stomach is, changing every couple weeks, I think, and
Yeah.
then our skin, our hair, like everything is dying and growing in your body at different rates. And so the 7 years biologically is that after the 7 years, every single cell in your body has left and has been made anew from day one to them. So then any of the old programming you have in your cells has had a chance to leave
Yes.
and
If
come
you've
in.
been doing your experiment perfectly from the second that you learned about it, then yes, you're correct.
Yeah. And then I find it interesting because there's also the Saturn return cycles that's about every 7 years. And
Mhm.
that's usually a big growth thing. So there's an
Yeah.
astrological thing behind that too.
We're looking at our Uranus oppositions pretty soon.
I'm so excited. Bring on my Leo North Node. Come on.
I need to look at, because it's between what, 42 and 43?
Yeah.
I think it was?
Yeah. It's about
Yeah.
42-ish. So another reason I'm not ashamed to say I'm 41. I'm like,
Yeah.
let's go. So yeah, there's interesting concepts, but then I started actually researching this biological thing and I couldn't find too much about it. Some were saying it's a myth, and it was very interesting to me.
Mhm.
And then I remember listening to a podcast with Brayton. Um,
Mhm.
I just forgot his last name, but you know who
It's
I'm
okay.
talking
I
about.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And he was saying in his projector group, he's meeting projectors who are in the first year of their experiment who are like blowing it out of the water.
Mhm.
They know so much, they're showing up in this deconditioned way that some who have been in their experiment for 5 years haven't quite reached. And I realized like we have so much access to information now on so many different levels. It makes
Yeah.
sense that we'd be able to go through this faster. And we think
Mhm.
about Raw in the 80s and how life was in the 80s.
Mhm. Inner
Like
work
maybe,
wasn't really a thing. People
yeah.
weren't doing that. So I think you're right. People are coming to human design already having done some form of inner work to
Uh-huh.
deal with the conditioning. But when Ra presented human design to us, it was the 80s. Nobody's doing that stuff.
Oh
Nobody.
yeah. Yeah.
So you need
Yeah.
to fully cook for 7 years.
And that's a really good point. So many people found it after some deep spiritual awakening or some like years of therapy or something. They've already done so much. So they're
And there's
able to,
so many things now that people can use for like inner work stuff.
yes.
So many different random stuff that you can do that's supposed to
Mm-hmm.
help you empty out and like gain access to your conditioning and see it for what it is and work with it. Because even though it says 7 year deconditioning, you're done, popped, your microwave goes off, it's not like you have no conditioning left. It's not like you've gotten rid
Right.
of it all. It's all still there, all of it. It will
That's the
never
other
go away.
thing. Yeah. Like maybe I just have this image, like, how in self-healing, like you're just constantly learning and growing. It always feels like a kind of cycle to me
Mhm.
or like a spiral staircase, like I'll get a little higher and something will hit me again, but I can see it from a different perspective. So I can
Mhm.
heal it a little deeper. So that's just what it feels like. It's like, okay, you hit this 7 years. Obviously you're a different person because even if without human design, you'd be a different person in
Yeah,
seven
it's 7
years.
years.
And so then this next phase is just about a deeper level of healing, of growth,
Mhm.
of expanding and aligning to your truth. So
Mhm. That's the way I look at it too. Unfortunately, there can be human design spaces that will tell you that you really can't give anyone else advice or really talk on someone else's design if you haven't been deconditioning for 7 years. Like you can't
yeah,
really talk on it. Like you
they're
can't
like,
speak.
you need to go hide in your lower self cave and don't speak to us higher beings. That's what it
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah, it does feel like that a lot. And it's like I feel like it's probably the second or third most asked question in Facebook groups when people give like their little spiel of where they are and what they need help with. It's like, well, what's your strategy and authority? Are you following your strategy and authority? And then how long have you been in your experiment? Like that's what they always ask you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say less than 7 years, any number less than 7, then that's their like, oh, okay, well, you just need more time. Cool. Thank you. It's not helpful. It's not helpful.
And I mean, I like asking people how long they've been in their experiment because I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And then
and you can meet, usually that helps okay, I could probably use all these words at you and you'll know what I mean.
Yes. That's the other thing. I want to gauge where you are so I know how to share this information with you.
Yeah, because we can shorthand stuff in human design and talk to each other and people will be like, what the hell are they talking about? But when you know that there's someone who doesn't know everything, you have to sort of longhand everything again and go, okay, well, this is this and this. And so, yeah, that's the reason why I ask people too, is because I'm curious. And a lot of times when I've asked people, they haven't been in it consistently. They're like, oh, I found it 4 years ago. And then I forgot about it for 2 years now. And I just recently came about it again. And it's like, well, obviously, yeah, maybe most people, when they hear about it, are not you and I. And they're not going to be like, oh, I started my experiment now. Here we go. And we're in it. And we are into it. Like most people hear about it.
We're like on the ride. We're like, okay.
Most people hear about it and it's almost like astrology. They're like, oh, that's a neat thing. And then they go about their lives and maybe it pops up again and then again. And then maybe they start to get into it. But it's so silly to put a number on your life experience and say by this time you've been in it long enough for what? To what? What does it mean? Like, what is it?
Right. Do you wake up on day 1 of year 8, like with a glow and you're like, I am now enlightened.
No,
I have been fully integrated.
You still have all your conditioning. There's still parts of your design that you like go against because you are unconsciously just are like, this is the better way. And maybe now you see it. Maybe now it's clear to you and you're like, oh, I'm doing this because of conditioning I've had from childhood or for years and years, and I'm not going to stop. So screw you, human design. Like that's kind of how it goes, is you start to recognize and see the parts and pieces of you that are changing. And that's scary. And so sometimes you will grab hold of those pieces real tight and you go, no, this is not changing. I will always have this view, or I will always do this way. And eventually your grip gets looser and looser. Maybe that's what the 7 years is. They're like, you can't hold on to this for 7 years. You will loosen your grip. You have to. And you loosen your grip. And then it's like, oh, I don't have to be this person or look at life this way or do life this way. But I still feel the urge to do it that way. Like it feels more comfortable to get pulled in that direction, but I don't necessarily have to do it that way.
Yeah. Or I mean,
comfortable.
If you've been really experimenting with your strategy and authority and it's moving you to this different place, then I mean, yeah, the not self's never going to go away because that's simply part of being human. So
and it's going to be scary. It's going to scare you. It's going to say things like, this doesn't feel comfortable. This isn't right. Like this doesn't feel right. And a lot of times when you are working with modalities like human design, where you're told to listen to your body, if something doesn't feel right in your body, it's like, oh, well, then I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing the strategy and authority part right. But
if you haven't, or you don't know how to really access your body because it's different. Like we're supposed to listen to our body too, but our bodies are open. So pre-human design, it's like, well, which part? The anxiety that's killing me, or like I think this is intuition over here. We
don't know like what's talking to us. And so this is an interesting one for me too, because there can be times when your body is saying no, but it's only saying no because it's afraid and because it's comfortable where it's at and it just doesn't want to be pushed out of the space. And that's something you have to experiment with, and you're not going to get it right all the time. You're gonna go, oh, my body's saying no, but because this is the wrong thing. It's totally wrong, and it's not. It's just you're in a nice warm bath and your body's like, I don't want to get out of this. Like, no.
Well, and that's when you can listen to the not self questions, right? Figure out where it's coming from.
Yes. Am I what is the sacral one?
Am
I trying too hard?
No.
Am I trying too hard?
Do I know when enough is enough?
Do I know when enough is enough? Similar vibe. Do I know when enough is enough? That's a real hard one for me, is do I know when enough is enough? Because no, I do not. And when it comes to the body things, I really think the spleen fear is big for me, and is like,
yes,
yeah, you're scared, but there's a reason to be scared. So just stay where you are.
exactly. I
like,
think that's
no.
what's been, yeah, that was a huge one I was working through all last year. I was just terrified of so much. So
the right choices don't always feel right in your body, even though human design says it's supposed to.
well, because there's like this is the interesting thing. This is the interesting thing because the body remembers the trauma, right? That's where the not self comes from. That's where the subconscious limiting beliefs come from. Your body remembers the trauma, and all of a sudden you're a scared 5-year-old kid instead of a grown woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so that part is starting to take over. But then there's also this wise inner queen inside of you that is in your body too, that knows like, no, this is where we need to go and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
So it's about listening to the truth in your body and listening to that scared little kid so that you can nurture that kid and integrate it.
And it takes practice. Like, you're not going to know, oh, this voice is fear, but it's fear I should push through. So it's cool. Let's go. Like,
yeah, that's why I love those not
like
self questions.
Like you want to barf, and that might be the right choice. And that's another interesting thing about human design that is a little off of the 7 years, but it's okay. Is that I feel like a lot of times they say, as long as you're following your strategy and authority and it feels right in your body, then you're going the right way. But what if it doesn't? What if you're following your strategy authority and you're doing your best and you're going along your way, but your body freaks out? Because like I said, I think for certain people, probably me and a lot of other people, comfort zones are like really serious. Like they're real. We get like, there's no, like, it's, you can't get out. Like you have to be here to stay safe and to be comfortable. Survival view, caves environment. Hello.
I know, that's what I was about to say. Like 3 out of 4 of your variables are one line. So
I
yes.
know. And so it feels, I've never really thought of it this way. Why it feels so difficult for me to do different things than what I've always been doing. Like it feels so difficult. My 5th line loves the routines. My other things I mentioned want me to be safe. And so for your body to scream at you, like, this isn't safe. This isn't safe. Is it not safe? Is it really not safe? Or is this place really comfortable? And your body and your mind are like, actually, you'll do better if you just stay here because nothing will change. And you can take some deep breaths and stay in this one spot and you'll be fine because you're safe here. But I can be safe in other places. I just don't, like, I get very confused, like when my body talks to me in this way, because sometimes like I said, I just feel very unsafe and I feel very scared and I get a lot of anxiety. And automatically I read that as wrong way, go the other way. Like your body, who wouldn't read it that way? Who wouldn't? Like, that's what you do. You move towards what makes you feel more comfortable in here, less like you're going to throw up. But I am needing to experiment with, why do I feel like I have to throw up? Like, why is this scary? Why? What's the reason? Is there a reason? Or is it just that it's nice here? It's nice in my little comfort zone. Yeah. I never really thought of it like that, like my survival view of my caves environment almost make comfort zones like really too comfy here. Like, it's interesting when you look at your parts of your design and it's like, how are you kind of working against me a little bit? Not against me, but like, you know what I mean? Like really trying to take care of me, but in a way that's I'm too
constricting.
Safe. Yeah, I'm too safe. I'm too safe.
Yeah. That's the entirety. That's the entirety of the not self. That's its entire job, is to keep you safe. It doesn't care if you're happy or thriving or growing. It just cares if you're safe.
And you can't tell sometimes if that's the voice of your not self or the voice of what you should do. Like, how do you differentiate it? You have to experiment and practice. And there's there's certain signs and signals in my body that do let me know, like, yeah, you're probably freaked out. Most of the time I'm scared of getting out of my comfort zone. So most of the time I know it's my not self talking to me. But that does not mean that I don't listen to it, because I do. I listen to my not self when I say, oh, thanks, it feels real nice here, thank you. But I know while I'm doing it, I'm like, this, you can't do this forever. You can't keep doing, like, eventually you're not gonna be able to do this. And that's the learning, that's the growth, that's the awareness part. Yes. You're still doing your old habits and patterns and your things. You're still making yourself comfortable in your little bubble of safety, and you know that you're doing it now. You're aware. And that's when it starts to get to you, because you're like, one day I'm not going to be able to do this, and it's going to be a change. And it's about working with yourself and realizing that you can't force that one day to happen. And you can, like, push yourself out of your comfort zone, like, and be like, hey, and then, yeah, you can do that all the time, and that's fine, and that's fun. But for, like, real change to happen, it just, I feel like it's like just almost like you said, one day you wake up and you're like, actually, I'm going to do this thing differently today. Yeah. And you don't, and there's no rhyme or reason. You didn't plan it. It wasn't like a launch that you've been planning for months. You just woke up and was like, oh, I'm going to stop doing this way, or I'm going to incorporate this positive thing in my life today. Oh, and I'm going to try to do it tomorrow too. And then the next day, and then the next day. And it's like, it doesn't fully form in your mind as like this revolutionary change that's going to happen in your life. I think it's more. Yeah.
And that's where the 7 years feels really overwhelming. If you're thinking about from today to 7 years from now, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm like, how am I supposed to be this completely different person? Well, one step at a time, not even a day at a time, like one step at a time. And then it will happen.
Yeah. And you can advise people. I've been in my experiment for 5 years. How long have you been in your experiment for?
I just hit 3 in December.
We charge people to talk to them about human design. We are professionals in this space, and we haven't been in it for 7 years. Some people might say that that's not allowed, or we shouldn't be doing that. But we've been professionals in this space for a while. I've been talking to people, telling people about human design and advising them, just blurting stuff out at them, projector style, forever. And I felt comfortable with it pretty early on, because I knew I could gauge what the person, like, I can tell how to give the information in a way that would be helpful, and not just like I wouldn't be raw giving a reading where he would be like, shock, bing, bam, like, whoa.
Initiate you into change.
Yeah, we're going to use this word that we know is really going to mess with you, and it's going to stick in your head for days after. That's kind of how I felt like when I got my reading from Teo, but not as like jarring, but more matter of fact, like, no, actually, this is how it is. And I was like, oh. And he was like, you're running your adrenals too hard. Like, do you not realize this? And I was like, no, I thought this is what people did. Don't you go from 0 to 1,000 on a regular basis? Like, isn't it like a workout for your adrenals? Like, I'm working this muscle. My adrenals are real strong. I got it. No, that's not what it is. But yeah, I realized that even if I wasn't in my experiment for 7 years, I still have something to say, Yes. And I felt when I first saw that, and it was right around the time when I was learning about the throat, and I was very uncomfortable with the fact that I'm here to speak. And then I saw the 7-year thing, and I was like, so am I not? So I'm here to speak, but not for 7 years? Like, how did this go?
That's true, especially for us as mental projectors, right? Like, we're the ultimate guides. It's like we're just not supposed to do our job.
We're not supposed to do the one thing that we are here to do. I can't even practice it, because if I'm practicing it, I'm doing it. And
right, especially with us as 3 lines. Yes. Like, we have to be in it to get better at it.
Exactly, precisely. So the 7-year thing is kind of preposterous for everybody, really. But mental projector 3rd lines, it's like, we have to be involved with another person. Projectors have to be involved with other people. So I'm going to affect other people with my thoughts and the way I use human design. And just as you said, we have to be in it. So I have to give readings to people. I have to ask them, hey, what's your design? Hey, at work, I ask people, hey, do you happen to know this young ass kid did not know what time he was born. He's like 20 years old. I'm like, call your mom. Your mom knows. You're so young. Your mom knows. It's probably online. She could probably email it to you. She can text it to you. Boop, boop, there it is. I'm like, don't give me any excuses. You're way too young. It is out there in the world. You can get it easily. Don't come at me. I was born in the 80s.
Right.
Mine is on paper. Like, I have it. It's like yellowed and you can barely read certain parts of it. I'm like, is this the First Amendment? Like, what is this? So old looking.
You're not that old.
There's like a quill pen signature at the bottom from the doctor. You're right, I'm not that old, but still. She was born a fortnight after. No, I was kidding. But anyway, I understand the idea of the 7-year thing. I don't like the specificness of the number, obviously, but I understand the idea that this system takes time to process. And I like the idea of letting people know, hey, there's a lot going on here. So if you decide to really get into this thing, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to go, oh crap, I've learned so, like me, I've been in it for 5 years and there's like so much that I haven't even attempted to learn. Variables barely scratch the surface. When people talk about what were we talking about earlier, Uranus opposition, I don't really know what that means. Like a bunch of shit, I don't really know what it means. But I am working with what I've got, and as the third line, I'm in it and I'm using it. And like if those things come along and I'm like, oh, I want to know more about this, it did a little bit with variables because I learned a little bit, then maybe I will learn more. But I feel like the 7-year thing can kind of give you permission to really like get into the parts and pieces that you like, that you're drawn to about design. And it really can help you learn more about your own design as you're, telling people about theirs or reading, or maybe just talking to your friends about it or your family members. You giving advice to other people and advising them on their charts and being like, do you see this? You're helping yourself because you're going, oh, I have this too, and I never thought about this. Or like,
well, yeah, especially as projectors, because we're meant to see the other, so we can't really see ourselves until we see the other. So
we have to involve other people. We have to. So this is just to say that human design is a complex system that will take you time. Inner work takes time anyway. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to care about the number if you don't want to. It's just an arbitrary, it's not an arbitrary number, because I understand what you're saying, that there's some possible scientific backing of our body completely changes once every 7 years. But because Rebecca's my first line honey bear, she researched this further. So maybe it might not be a real scientific correlation. It might just be something that they grabbed onto and said, hey, did you know every 7 years your entire body changes? Oh, I've seen that in a meme somewhere. So I know that I've seen it. But
but I tried to look in like medical things.
See? This is why Rebecca is amazing. Because I would have been like, maybe.
I'm like Google Scholar.
Right? She's like, who did they source? Where who did they source in this? I have to figure this out. So
yes. So that just reminded, like, the other thing too is like, don't think you have to go to a certain depth of the system, because I feel like I know a whole lot more about the system than Janelle, even though I've been in it 2 years less.
Yep,
but let's look at my makeup, right? Like I can't help, I just keep getting drawn in. It's just
and normally before human design, that would really bother me.
Yeah.
That would very much bother me and now I can easily say it and I know that it's true and I don't care because it is you.
Yeah.
It is because 1-3.
Exactly. We're here for different things.
It's your mind gates. It's like, yeah.
Everything about me
is design. I would just be like, you have to show me how you are doing this so that I can do it too. Yeah. And then I would try to do it how she does it, and I would get so pissed off.
And it would not work.
Because I'm like, oh, studying school. So, and it's okay. I'm still knowledgeable. I'm still very knowledgeable.
Yes.
She's still knowledgeable. We're confident to give people, we can have these conversations. And I never would have thought this pre-human design. I would have thought I had to do everything the way that you do it.
And I would have thought like this drive to know more would have come from more insecurity. Like, well, I like, clearly I have to hide for 7 years and study under a rock
Yeah.
before I can do anything because I know nothing and everybody else knows way more than me and I'm stupid. And now it's just like, no, I just feel drawn to learn this.
Can I just know more? Can I just know more? Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you say stuff and I'm like, when did you have the time to learn this? Like, where did you get this?
Like, I don't even know.
It's great because then she gets recognition of like, hey, look how good you are at learning things in this way. And then I get recognition too, but I also feel like I get let off the hook by myself, like by my own personal conditioning that says you have to be smart and you have to know everything about everything. And a lot of people have that conditioning of, I can't speak unless because no one wants to be embarrassed. No one wants to be called out. No one wants to be like, hey, that's wrong. And then you look it up and you're like, oh shit, I am wrong. Like that, no one really wants to do that to themselves. So most people really they just don't feel comfortable speaking when they should, when they know plenty. And so the 7-year thing can kind of trip you up. Like Rebecca said, if you have a first line that you have to wait that long. You do not. You can speak it, you can share it however you want. And if you're not coming from a place of malice or a place of, I need to control this person, so this is what I'm going to tell them, or I see this in their chart, but I actually think it would be better if I just told them this. Like if you're being honest and it's okay, bless you. And you're coming from a place of, I want to help this person see themselves, then the way that you give the information is going to come off that way. And it's not going to be, you're not going to steer. That was one of the things when I first came to human design, I was freaked out about. It was like, I'm going to steer someone the wrong way. I'm going to misguide them.
I worried about that too. But then I started seeing so many people so self-righteously talk about
I
design.
got over it quick.
And I'm like, like looking back, I can get it now. I didn't really see it at the time, but I'm like, you are a generator who's been doing this for like 9 months. Calm down.
Yeah, relax. Yeah. I was the same way. I was like a little freaked out, and then I would see the depths people would go into other people's lives and say, actually, this is this, and this is this, and to watch the person's face just be like, and you don't know if that's like. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like you're telling them too much about themselves. Like let them get there on their own. Give them little pieces, but let them get there on their own. Because like, what do they need right now? And I know I did that before. Like my one line just wanted to tell them everything because just in case like they needed something. I have like one line, but I was giving 3-hour readings like it was nothing for $40.
See,
$40.
yeah. No,
that's the undefined heart for me for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And now I'm like, I've gotten more intuitive too. It's really cool. It's really fun. Like during the session, like I'll prep for it, but then during the session, just stuff comes out.
Yeah. I do the same thing. I'll have like 2 pages of notes and I'll start with the first like paragraph and then we'll go somewhere else. And I'll skip some stuff or won't even talk about some stuff that's in there, or we'll go to a different place. And I, like you said, I'm confident I know where we're going. Like I'm confident I can drive us in this space.
Oh yeah.
Even if we go on this random road. And at first, when I was first doing it, I was really like, stick to your notes. If you don't give them, I was afraid like if I skipped like this little blurb of information, they would somehow know. And like, be like, hey, so after you gave me my reading yesterday, I learned everything I could about human design, and you missed this part right here. You didn't say this. Why? And then I got over it pretty quickly, and I realized that first of all, nobody knows anything about this. Like we could make up the most. We could tell people to get up at 3 a.m. and stand on one leg and howl at the moon if you're a projector, or bark like a dog if you're a generator. Like we could totally just make this shit up and nobody would know, because this is such a random niche thing that we as projectors have grabbed onto. Obviously I would never do that, but it's just as you said, like I can look at my notes, but as I'm talking to the person, I'll be like, they don't really care about this. There's something else they're talking about. So let them keep talking, and then we'll give them what they actually want, which might not be everything you know about the heart center and the head center and all this stuff. Like they don't care about that. They don't know what that is most of the time.
They're not trying to dig into that. They want to know how to use this in their lives.
When I was first reading, I think I was trying to train people too, because I was like, okay, so I'm going to read to you and I'm going to show you this is the center and this is what the center means and it's connected to this and these are what channels are. And
right.
And it's like, they do not, no one cares about that unless they want to learn about it. Like when someone wants a reading, they're asking about themselves. They want to know about them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when you're teaching like that, you're telling them about you.
You know what? I don't know. Okay, while we were talking about this, it just hit me. Like I just started thinking about 7 years ago me, because we're talking about the 7 years ago. 7 years ago me would be so confused by 7 years, like by me today.
What is that, 2016?
15.
15.
Right? No. 16. No, 15.
15. Yeah. That was the year before I got married. So I got married September 2016. So I got engaged in 2015, actually. But yeah, I would have thought this is the fucking weirdest shit. I would have been like, this is so like, what are you even doing? Like, what is, I would have looked at myself and been a real jerk. I would have been like, especially now that the tarot stuff has come in, I would have been like, whoa, like you are, this is none of this shit's logical. Like you can't make money off of this stuff unless you work really hard. By the way, what are you working hard on? Nothing. Good job. Great. You're awesome.
Right.
Like I would have been so mad at myself. And now that I'm here where I am, looking at that person, she was working way too hard.
Yeah, it's like, what are you trying to prove, hon? Just calm down, take a nap. It'll
2015
be okay.
was a really great year for me because it was like the engagement year. So I was in a really, really good headspace a lot of the time. I was in yoga teacher training, but that's when my injuries started to really present themselves, like my hip injury and my wrist injury. So I was doing yoga teacher training, but I couldn't do a lot of the stuff. And that was really making me angry. And I was getting upset. I would be crying during the class because I couldn't do everything. But I was also getting married. So it was almost like I didn't give a shit. I was like, this is awesome, but holy shit, I'm getting fucking married. Like, it was just so surreal. And I was like making decorations for the wedding. And I made so much awful shit that I did not use. So much. Spray painting. I had like this full suit and I was spray painting on my balcony of my apartment. Like these big buckets and sticks and cones and just so, I'm like, I'm going to DIY this wedding. It's going to be amazing. I worked so hard and it was summer. So it was like 90 degrees. I'm like sweating bullets. And I remember getting pissed off at myself because I didn't do it fast enough. Like I didn't get to the things I wanted to get to. And then we didn't use half the shit. So my dumbass conditioned projector self was like, no, you have to make everything, all the things, and you're going to use this all. And I had this idea of what it was going to look like in my head. And some of it did look that way. I used the cones. The pine cones looked great. But otherwise, I just was really spinning my gears. I remember, like I can see myself doing it, but it was a different year for me. It was like one I can't really compare to any other year. So I was in a real different place, but I was still working 5 days a week at the restaurant.
I was working my corporate job.
Oh,
I was dating my second husband. He hadn't proposed just yet. And then my kid's dad went on deployment for 6 months, and I was so relieved because it'd be 6 months of not having to see him. I was like, maybe I can heal some part of this, because every time I had to see him was exhausting.
and now with human design, you're a little bit better at that. Right?
Yeah, so much better. Yeah.
So you weren't even married the second time 7 years ago? Oh my goodness. See, this is the other thing about you. I feel like you've lived like 5,000 lives.
It's a lot.
Like 1.5.
When I think back, like, oh, okay.
It really is. And that helps me too sometimes when I get to like where I just said, where I'm like, I don't think I've done anything, or I'm not anything, is I'll start thinking back to the stuff I've done. And it's like, oh, actually, moving out here and not knowing, like me getting myself to Colorado, like I did that all myself. And if I wouldn't have done that, none of this.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of crazy to think of.
It is crazy to
still
think
be
of.
in California. So glad I'm not there. I mean, I'm sorry if you live in California and you're listening and you're like, screw you, Janelle. Sure, the weather's great right now, so thumbs up. But
it's okay. The other thing I think of is like, I wonder how I'll feel after the 7 years. If I'll look back and be like, okay, now I kind of get the 7-year transition.
as I'm getting
Like,
closer, I feel that
yeah.
way too, because I'm 2 years away.
Yeah. There'll be a definite shift this summer. I'll hit 3.5. I'll hit the halfway. So I know there'll be some momentum happening there. Like, very curious about that.
Technically, my 5 years is until April. I feel like I should be.
Be specific, Janelle. We're gonna call you out.
See it? We've talked about this. I need to think about why I really feel like people are out to like trick me. Like someone's gonna go out of their way, like extremely out of their way to point out the thing that I did wrong to trick. Like, I don't know what. I'm trying to figure out like where that is, like what that comes from. I mean, I think it comes from obviously me feeling tricked as a child by my parents because they were able to come off as wonderful parent, like responsible parents as they were binge drinking alcohol all day, like two-face. I think that's really where it comes from. But like, I don't know how to stop it. And I know I shouldn't say that because it's conditioning and I can't stop it. But a part of me is like, how do you stop assuming people are going to try to trick you or catch you in a lie or something, even though you're not lying? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, that's the first part. You don't lie and you don't deceive. Like, that's not in your nature. I don't even know if you could.
I'm a very bad liar.
Right, like same. Like, I'm terrible.
First of all, I think about lying and I go, well, it's not worth it. And I usually just don't. But even if I get close to it, I have to like plan it.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in high school, did I tell you I skipped school one time? My entire high school career, I was a senior and I skipped school one time. And I planned it for like a week. I like wrote this, I like studied my mom's handwriting and like forged this note and like told my sisters and brothers this big elaborate story about how after I dropped them off, at school, I had to go to the library before I made up this huge this huge story to like elaborate story to tell my family and anyone who asked. And like, when me and this girl were in it, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get murdered, like something, it's terrible. We drove to the fucking beach. I had a license, like I was 16. We hung out at the beach, it was a cloudy, shitty day, and we came back. And nothing ever came of it. Years later, I asked my mom, I said, did you know that I skipped school that day? And she goes, yes. And I said, how did you know? And she goes, you came home sunburned. I was like, fuck. She's like, but I didn't, she's like, I didn't care. I'm like, you didn't ask me about it? She's like, well, because she's like, Janelle, you never did anything wrong. Like, I literally had to try to get you to like push yourself and like be adventurous because you weren't an adventurous person. She goes, so I figured you skipped school and you did something fun. And she's like, I'm not going to get mad at you for that.
Oh, I love how it took years later. We were like, oh, I was sunburned.
But she knew. She's like, Janelle, you don't lie. You don't just like, she's like, you were a really good kid growing up to the point where I had to try to get you to like break rules a little, not like break rules, but like, I was so like terrified of like getting in trouble
was too,
or like doing something incorrectly or breaking any sort of rule, no matter whose rule it was.
Yes, I thought like the world would literally open up and eat me alive or something like devastating would happen.
If you weren't proper and doing everything right, like here we go. I was the same, and my mom knew that, and she would try. She's like, I tried to get you to like, but she's like, but you were scared. You just wouldn't. She's like, you were afraid people would know, and I think that's what it is. I'm always afraid people are going to know when nobody knows anything about me really, and then trick me. It's gotten a lot better because, as you said, I know who I am, and I'm not like a deceitful person. So I don't have like lies everywhere that I have to keep track of because I don't even know how people would do that. But it still pops up sometimes when we're like, oh, someone's going to know that I don't know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to point it out. I'm going to get tricked. So yeah, that's a weird one. I need to like think about more. I know it's like a trust thing, obviously, but it's weird, right? Do you feel like people are trying to trick you?
No, I never had that one.
Okay.
I just thought people, we're
No, but like
gonna
as an adult, do you feel like people are trying to trick you or
no,
catch you in something?
no,
So they're
I don't
thinking,
think. I have kind of the opposite where like I just assume everybody forgets I exist and like
oh, I wish I had
don't
that.
pay attention to me.
There was a school therapist my freshman year of high school who told me, get off the stage. And I was like, what? She goes, you think you're on stage all the time. Everyone's watching you. You're the star. Get off the stage. And I was like, that was one of the things that actually really helped me, was I realized that no one was watching me every
Nobody.
second of every day. And in my mind, everybody was, especially in
Mhm.
high school.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And she was just like, you're not on stage. Get off the stage. And at first I was like, that's mean. Like, I'm sure I cried. I thought that was really mean, but she was right. Like, I was on the stage and I needed to get
Yeah.
off the stage. So, but that's what I think of when you just said what you said, is I was the opposite. I didn't think I was invisible. I thought I was too visible at all times.
Mm.
You were invisible. I was too visible. Ooh, this is cool. Like,
Interesting.
because we still did some of the same things, like not wanting to get in trouble
Yes.
and like,
Yes.
but it comes from like, no one noticed you, and to me everybody noticed everything I did.
Mm.
Ooh, cool. Breakthroughs, guys. Okay, so as you have gleaned, Rebecca and I don't care about the 7-year thing. It's just a thing that's part of the human design world. And as Rebecca said, I'll be interested to see when I do hit 7 years, if there's any sort of anything. And it's also interesting to think about 7 years ago, like to do those kinds of things. That's cool. That's fun to do. And to allow yourself to have plenty of time to get into this human design thing, if you are into it and you want to, is a big part of it too. But ultimately, allow yourself plenty of time to gain clarity and see these things and give yourself a break. Like, I think that's another big part of the 7-year thing that is helpful, is it's like, cut yourself some slack. You have a long time here. So just relax and don't
just enjoy the ride.
Exactly. Don't try to force it, and enjoy what's happening. And I think that's helping me too, because I'm in like a weird spot. So are you, with like design, and like, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like we're both really into this human design thing, and we both really were for a while, but now there's these other things that are popping up that are catching our attention too, like your meditations.
Yeah, but it's fun to like integrate them.
Yeah, me with the tarot, it's fun to like look at it together, but I don't feel like my whole identity is human design. And for a while I was feeling that way, like, this is who I am, this is human design brought itself to me, this is what I'm supposed to do. And it hasn't been until very recently that I've looked at it and gone, maybe I was brought this thing simply to heal myself. Like, maybe I wasn't brought human design to make a business out of it or share it with people. Maybe I really was just brought it for me. And I look at it that way now too. I think I received it when I did, for multiple reasons, but I think that's part of it. I do think I am here to share it. I think that's a bigger part of it.
Yeah.
But I do feel and acknowledge and see the part of, maybe this was just for you, and you don't have to make yourself the human design aficionado. This is just for you. So, and that helps take a lot of the pressure off for me when it comes to being in this space and trying to build a business and market, and it's not going the way that I want. You know, I just want to blow up already, you know, we both do. And it's like, but maybe that's not why it was brought to me, or maybe I'm not there yet. And so,
yeah. Well, and I think this integration of tarot for you this is feeling like more movement to me.
I'm glad that you're saying that to me, because it was tarot to me feels not as logical as human design. Like, it feels so woo, like way, but I like it. And I like have my rituals. I have the way that I do the card. Like, I have all these things and I'm into it. But then when I look at it like from the outside kind of, I'm like, this is weird. Like,
I know.
so but I'm fine with it, but I'm also like, am I fine with it? So I don't know. I agree with you. And I do like the way that you worded it just now, where you said this feels like movement, which I felt like I needed for like months. I felt like things have kind of stopped, probably like October, November. So not like months and months, but a few months.
That is when Mars went retrograde and movement stopped. So
great. And it's winter time and like everything slows and people are seasonal. Like we talk about all this stuff. But just like you said, I felt like stuff kind of stopped and I didn't really have any. I like to come up with action steps for myself that are aligned with my design. And I couldn't come up with anything. I was like, I have no action steps. And then the tarot thing happened and it didn't feel like action.
Yeah.
Until recently. And with you saying that, it feels like action. And I know that sounds silly to be like, well, why do you care about action so much? Why do you need action? But as mental projectors, every action, the things that come to us that make us take action, we need to really pay attention to those because we're not really here to take a lot of action.
No. Well, and it's interesting, like the phrasing, because again, I just keep hearing the word movement for this, and movement feels a lot more nurturing than action. Like it's action feels like you're trying to take this step and control this outcome and do this thing, and movement is like, oh no, this is what's happening, so this is where we're going.
Yeah, you're totally right. I am obviously trying to control this thing. That's what I do. But I like that you're correct, because to me action means there's got to be an outcome. Like if there's an action, then what happens at the other after? But movement is a continuous thing that just changes and flows, but it's not like you have to have an outcome from the movement, you know?
Yeah.
I think I'll start to like look at it differently in my mind, because I think you're right. And me trying to like wanting to read for other people, because like you said, I feel intuitively like this is something that I should be doing, but I don't know all of it yet, so it gets weird. But doing it for you guys has been fun, and it really helps me to learn to tell the story. And that's the big thing about tarot, that even though it was super woo, it kind of grabbed me, it was like, well, you're just telling a story. Like this is a story, and you can tell the story the way you tell it, and you can add things that you feel from the cards. That was another big thing, as they said, look at the card and what do you feel when you look at the card? Those are the things that you should write down first, and then go look at books and like learn other stuff, because the way you feel about the card should be part of the story when you're telling it, because that's what makes you an intuitive reader, like a real intuitive person. And I was like, oh shit. So it's helping me a lot that the tarot thing doesn't have a lot of rules. It's helping me a lot, that I don't have to like, there was this rule when I first read that you weren't supposed to buy your own decks, you're supposed to give them to you. And then this one lady wrote, well, what if you're really into tarot and nobody gives you decks? Like you're just never supposed to try it or like it or even care about it. You're supposed to wait. It's very similar to human design, the waiting thing. It's like you're supposed to wait. No, you buy your own goddamn decks. Just pick ones that feel awesome. And I only have 2. Most tarot people have like a trillion, and I have
so many. Yeah.
One that I bought myself and one that Sean gave me. So I do have one that has been given to me. And I have been using that one consistently for 30 days, because I did read that when you first get a deck, you should use it every day for 30 days just to, one, this is a very logical reason, to get your hand oils on it so it's easier to work with and shuffle. So that's like, I learned that. I'm like, oh, this is science. Oh, I'm doing it because this is science. Oils, hands, got it. That's why I'm doing it. But the other reason is to like really mesh with the deck and like feel how you feel. I did a deck interview, which I thought was so crazy when I first got it. And I like asked the deck questions like, what readings are you going to be good for? This and like I interviewed the deck, and I felt like a weirdo.
Cool.
But it was fun, and I wrote it down. Like I have it in my little journal. Like it's so weird. I'm doing these things, and I feel like a weirdo, but it's also fun. So I don't really. So, yeah, that's this does kind of click into the 7-year thing, because I think that for me, I thought that I had to be into human design for 7 years and nothing else. Like I had to be like on this human design path. And then these other things are coming in, and I was like, well, what if I don't like human design as much as I thought? Or what if there have been points where I go, what if I don't believe this? What if I don't believe any of this? What if? But I do. And that's the thing, is like my body quickly is like, don't, that's not true.
Yeah.
You're a liar.
Yeah.
So that helps me, but it also helps to question things like that and to think like that, because then I was allowed to have the space for tarot to come in without going, oh, but no, tarot is a completely different thing. I have to put down human design and then go over to here and again, like, it's cool. Like I can, and I thought that if I focus on tarot a little bit, I would take some focus off human design, and that would be like, I needed to put all of it on there, like it's my pet or something. Like I have to nurture this human design thing, but it's okay to let it go and like not look at your chart for an entire day, or not talk about human design for an entire day. I don't know if I've done that, but it would be fine if I did.
It'll be okay.
Yeah. So that's, to me, ultimately what the 7-year thing is here, is to cut yourself some slack and give you a break, and to let you know that things take time, especially when you're dealing with conditioning. And it's okay if you feel stuck, because something will give you movement.
Yeah.
And then you move again, and then you get stuck again. And then you go, oh shit, and then you get movement. So that's all I got. We went a lot of places in this one.
We did. It's
okay. It's okay. Good. It's good for all of us. It's therapeutic for me. I would hope that it's therapeutic for you, because we get to talk about our stuff.
Yeah.
And for y'all that are listening, thanks. And if you ever have questions about human design or anything you hear us talk about, let us know. That might become an episode. Like we might try to, I can't think of the word, but it's a projector thing to really let you do the work and then give it to us, and we go, oh, okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So
we invite the questions.
Yeah, we invite the questions. So
thanks, y'all.
Bye.